from a detective that was investigating the death and alleged foul play surrounding the decedent's death.
Have you ever seen any documents regarding the 911 call that was ultimately placed by Maria Cohen in this matter?
Yes, there was some transcript that I believe Mr. Esdale had forwarded me, and there was also a tape recording that was on a website regarding that 911 call.
And have you seen the evidence that the 911 call was actually placed at 5:58 p.m.?
That's what everything seems to point to, yes.
But the document that you read from said that the 911 call was placed at 5:37 or thereabouts.
That seems obvious. It seems to be an obvious inaccuracy to the timeline.
Assuming those Verizon records are correct and that you called the home of Murray Cohen at 5:35. I'm sorry, that you called the home of Murray Cohen at 5:34 and 5:45. It appears that the 911 call wasn't placed until about 13 minutes after the second call to the Murray Cohen residence.
That's true.
And before we move away from the report, was there any other factual inaccuracy that you saw?
Was there
in
any
the
other
Sarasota
what?
Sheriff's Office report?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. Was there any other what?
Factual inaccuracy in the Sarasota Sheriff's Office report that I shared with you.
On page 6, under the July 29th, 03 heading, Detective Hallisey reclaims a conversation that he allegedly had with Mr. Esdale, claiming that Mr. Esdale recognized that the telephone calls of Beninati, I'm reading from the transcript here, did not clearly establish a domestic dispute was occurring at the time the decedent died. Mr. Esdale concurred the second phone call Beninati placed to the home did occur after the paramedics had arrived. Now, from everything that I have ever recognized or discussed about this whole matter, that seems to be inaccurate, because I can't understand why Mr. Esdale would be thinking that I had placed a second call after the paramedics had arrived. I never gave Mr. Esdale, nor did I ever give Detective Hallisey any reason to even think that my call had gone in after any paramedics had arrived.
So, based on your observations of the evidence in this matter, that statement appears to be false.
That's correct. On page 7, under the heading August 19th, 03, second paragraph, Detective Hallisey claimed that he spoke with attorney Steve Rakusin, who had explained that Maria had testified during the deposition that she was napping with the decedent when the phone rang, and according to Rakusin, Maria went to answer the phone in the kitchen, and she went back to the bedroom to wake up the decedent and tell him that the call was for him. Again, that testimony clearly is inaccurate, because I never recalled ever hearing Maria say that she was going to get the decedent to come to the phone, and clearly the first phone call and the second phone call was to a woman who was hysterical and out of control, crying, and never did say that she was going to get Mr. Cohen.
And if you believe her testimony, she would not have known that Murray Cohen was dead yet.
That's correct. So, again, another clear set of inaccuracies. Then we go on to August 25th, when Detective Hallisey was recalling a video deposition, and the summary claims that according to Maria, the decedent and she were lying in bed when she awoke to the phone ringing. I'll continue. She got up to answer the phone in the kitchen. Maria did recall who was on the phone, but the person asked for her husband. Again, my understanding, my recognition of someone who was awoken by a phone call, it would be highly unlikely that anyone would answer the phone hysterically crying if they just woke up and were awoken by the sound of the phone. Now, further on in that summary of August 25th, 03, on page 8, second paragraph on page 8, there's a sentence that claims that she, Maria, said the person called back and she explained not to call, that there was an emergency. And as I discussed earlier in this testimony, I have no recollection of her saying anything close to those words.
In fact, you asked her if everything was okay, and she said yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So her statement is a lie.
It appears that way. Those were all of the issues that I thought were inaccurate in regard to the investigative report that was forwarded to me.
Have you ever attempted to testify in any litigation regarding the death of Murray Cohen?
I was in court in Middlesex County on at least 2, perhaps 3 occasions when I was asked to come to court by Mr. Esdale during a hearing or a set of hearings surrounding the exhumation of Mr. Cohen. And on all occasions during the period when these hearings occurred, I was never asked to provide any kind of testimony by any of the attorneys that were present in the case, nor was I asked by the judge presiding.
There was a Slayer hearing that was attempted in Florida in the fall of 2007. Did anyone ever subpoena you or request that you testify in that case?
I do recall being given notice. I don't recall if it was a subpoena or if it was a verbal communication that I be present and available during the hearing so that if need be, I could provide testimony via phone. I was never asked by anyone surrounding that hearing to provide testimony.
So, through the present, is this the first time that you've ever given sworn testimony in connection with this matter?
I was, I imagine, sworn testimony, yes. I was interviewed by a private detective at some point.
That was for Murray Cohen's son, Steve Esdale?
I believe so, yes.
What about when you were interviewed by Detective Hallisey? Did he do that over the phone, or did he meet you in New York?
It was performed over the phone.
Do you know if he recorded the conversations?
I don't recall, quite frankly. He could have. I don't recall.
Okay. Getting back to the male voice that you heard screaming in the background when you made these calls that were answered by who appears to be Maria Cohen, would you describe the male voice as also yelling hysterically?